Hey, Susie, have you ever wondered what the easiest, fastest, most rapid way to make a connection is?
Oh, I know. If I stay right here, I'll find out more. Negotiations don't just happen in the boardroom. They happen in everyday life. I'm Susie Tomenchok, expert negotiator, author, and TEDx speaker. I'm glad you're here. I'm going to show you the art of negotiation without manipulation so you can level up, know your worth, and adopt a negotiator mindset. Let's go. I'm so glad you made the choice to be here today, especially because I have a good friend of mine, Alana Mueller. She's a master negotiator with a passion to connect, inspire, and empower community. Wow, that's so good.
Thanks for having me. I'm delighted to see you. Great to be with you today.
So tell us, what does that mean? What do you do for individuals? Tell us about your superpower or your genius.
So honestly, for me, relationships are the superpower, the ability to convene people, to make people feel comfortable, and to build relationships that are built on trust that really, I think, pay dividends over time for all parties.
And I love this topic. This aligns so well with negotiation because even though we don't think about it, the relationship is the core of building a great outcome and being collaborative and trusting. People want to do deals with people they trust. Know, like, and trust.
Know, like, and trust. That's what I always say. People want to do business with others who they know, like, and trust. And so I encourage people, be that person. Be the person that others know, like, and trust. And, you know, one of the things that I talk about, I think you and I have even talked about, is think about all the characteristics of the kinds of people you like to hang out with. And the thing is, this is not about fake it till you make it. It's what is the very best version of yourself? Who are you? What are your great personality attributes? And then be that person. Be the person who's fun, funny, engaging, smart, optimistic, happy, controversial in some cases, right? So be the very best version of yourself. And then others will see that authenticity and will flock to you. They'll want to do business with you.
I think that's so powerful. And when you were saying that, I want to add to it is, and what value do I bring? Yeah. What value do I bring to the other party? Because so often we give more weight to the value of the other side. And so we hamper our negotiation, our difficult conversation, our crunchy conversation that we need to have because we don't think about our values. So I love that expressing what makes you uniquely you.
I'll never forget when I first started networking in earnest, really, really being intentional about building relationships. I remember that I realized, and maybe our listeners today already have this nailed, but that it's not about what have you done for me lately? It's what can I do for you? Yeah. What can I do to be helpful to you? And while that may sound trite, what I find is that if you authentically ask that question, if you say, what can I do to be helpful to you? People are disarmed. They think, wow, you know, very few people ever ask me that. And then secondly, they feel special. You make them feel like there's something that you genuinely want to do for them. And the thing is, you have to mean it. You have to be authentic. You have to actually, in a genuine way, want to be helpful. Sometimes you can't deliver that and you should be honest about it. But as you and I've discussed many, many times, this notion about trust, this ability to really connect at a level that says, I'm here for you. I think that what ends up happening is that it goes both ways. That relationship really does become bi-directional, mutually beneficial to both parties.
I think that's a great practice to just add that at the end without any expectations, without even thinking, because sometimes you think, I have nothing of value to give to them. Don't put that in your head and make that be something that keeps you from saying it. See what comes from that. And I love the alignment too in negotiation to understanding the interests of the other party, or even saying, what's important to you to get out of this? Like, what is that going to hurt? Put it out there.
That's exactly right. There's no more mystery. This is not couched in mystery and intrigue. We know why we're getting together. That's why I often encourage people, you know, if you're the one who's asked somebody in a networking capacity to get together, and what you really want is you want to fundraise for your favorite organization and you're selling tables for the gala, don't say, hey, I want to get together just to catch up. And then when you get together, it's like, oh, you know, while I have you, I'm selling tables at the gala, because people will, of course, see right through that.
Yeah.
I always say, don't couch it in mystery and intrigue. Tell them what it is that you want.
Yeah.
And the thing is, sometimes there's a transaction to be had, right? And
Yeah.
the answer may be no, but if you've built a trusting relationship, then they'll at least hear your request. They'll hear the sales pitch or the opportunity that they're presenting to you.
I think that's so powerful. And it makes me think too that people don't like to say no. They like connection, but they also don't like to. And so give them permission to say no. Cause a lot of times the next time around, it's not no always, it's no sometimes, but we often hear no always. And so it's a transaction. And then what can you give to them? What can you, and keep giving?
Absolutely. And I find that, again, it may sound trite, but the more we give, the so much more we get back. Right. And sometimes it really is just that listening ear. Maybe sometimes it's just the listen and that people discover that, you know, there's a relationship here and that we may not always get that thing that we're seeking in the moment, but eventually it comes back around.
Yeah. And if you ask and you listen to understand, you will uncover more information than you had
100%.
at the beginning. Totally.
100%.
When we come back, let's talk about some examples of this, about making connection when it's been really powerful. So stay right where you are. Tell us a story from maybe a client that you've had where you've had an interaction, whether to you or somebody else, where you feel like it turned out well, or maybe went a surprising way.
It's so ironic that you're asking this question. I just had a situation that I have to admit sort of was jarring at first. I was a little bit rattled. What happened was I had been working with a long-term client on almost a year-long project. And it was complex. It was multifaceted, all the things. And I was really proud of the process. I was really proud of the different components along the way. Just recently, I presented my findings and my final recommendation. And Susie, it was rejected. It was rejected. And honestly, it's one of those moments where you feel your heart sort of drop. You know? Yeah. It sort of first goes up into your throat and then down into your stomach. And it was one of those things where I was just like, oh, you know, it kind of takes the wind out of your sails. But what was interesting about it in the context of talking about relationship building and negotiation is that they came back. They said that they disagreed with my final recommendation. They gave me reasons why they disagreed. And the truth is, I couldn't disagree with them. And what ultimately happened is we scheduled a follow-up discussion. Additionally, I will say, probably because we've been working together for so many years, they thanked me. Like they said, we know that you want to get this right and we so appreciate you. And it was genuine. It was not, you know, it wasn't said in a manner that there was nothing behind we know you want to get it right. They weren't leading the witness, so to speak. And really what happened is we came back, we talked it through. We zhuzhed it up, right? We sort of fixed the response so that they were satisfied and I still felt happy and content with the final product. And honestly, it was a better product all the way around. And so it was a bit of a dance. It was a bit of a negotiation. And honestly, I feel a sense of calm. I feel a sense that we are closer. I feel a sense that I'll probably get more business from this particular client. And I think that we all feel a sense of satisfaction that we actually wouldn't have had if they had simply accepted my original proposal.
Super interesting. So when you first said, and they didn't agree, what came to mind for me was that was a response that was unexpected. It was a surprise to you, which created this. What happens when we have this unexpected thing is it clouds our ability to think and we almost want to defend against it. So it seems like you were able to kind of make the space you needed to allow your cognitive agility to stay in the game.
Yeah, you're so right. I mean, honestly, it was one of those things where, you really do get the wind knocked out of you, right?
Yeah.
And I will say, I guess the good news for me is that the original communication was by email. So it gave me a moment to recuperate. I didn't respond like immediately and I didn't respond thankfully in a defensive manner, which, I think we all are prone to do from time to time. And yet I think because they were kind but direct and candid in their feedback. And I was able to recuperate and respond in a manner that I didn't try to overly justify my pitch. I defended my recommendation only in terms of the facts and the information that I had.
That's so good. And just to dissect again, like when that happened to you, it's nice that it was offline. And I love what you said too, because the language I put around that is something that was low stakes for you became high stakes with that response of that email. And when we can identify, oh my gosh, this has become high stakes, all of a sudden, it's an emotional response. So our tendency is to jump right back in. And I love how you said from time to time, we feel that way. I think more than just from time to time that happens. When you said that, I'm like, no, all the time.
All the time. Fight or flight.
Yes, fight or flight. Applying space, adding space, and not responding allows us to get back to an objective place that allowed you to look at it. And you said it so great. Looked at the facts and just re-grounded yourself to take a different seat at the table so you could see it from a different angle.
Yeah, no, I feel proud of it. And I feel proud of the way we all responded. And to your earlier point, I don't think that we could have gotten there without trust. Yeah. They trusted that I wanted to do what was right, that I cared about as much as they did. It's not my company, it's their company. Yeah. But I really care because I really know them, and I know them as an organization, and I know them as individuals. And I think that was a game changer. We care about each other. Not only do I want to get it right from a reputational perspective, but I want to get it right because I want to get it right for them. I think that this final output is important to their business, and that's important to me.
Trust is so important. And we often don't use that word as it relates to negotiation because we feel like those two are in separate buildings, if you will, trust and negotiation.
Little at odds.
Like, no, yeah. But it really is to think about, like I like to tell people, if you don't have a relationship with the person that's in front of you, take some time, even a few minutes to make a connection. Even if you ask somebody something about them personally, they're 6 times more likely to do something for you. And so like really building that relationship doesn't take a lot of time. But it's important to think about that trust level and what you need to do to move in. And I'd love to talk about that when we're going to leave our listeners with a few tips today. Do you want to take it from how to make connection, how to build trust? How do you want to take the tips?
Yeah. What we'll do is let's talk about ways that people can sort of instantly establish that kind of rapport and what it's going to take to build a client base or a relationship base that matters.
I love that because that's a part of prepare before you go into a high stakes situation is what are you going to do to get ready? So, I'm excited to hear your tips. I'm going to see which one I'm going to take on and myself. So
can't wait.
Stay right here. You don't want to miss it. Alana, I'm super excited for your tip. So what's your first tip?
My first tip, if I were to sum it up in one word, would be prepare. Let's say I've convinced you. You are now a master networker yourself. You're going to get out there and start connecting with people. I think that it requires a little bit of preparation. And so a couple of things that people can do. One, make a list of people you already know, people already in your relationship base who you want to reconnect with. And frankly, it could be somebody you saw this morning at the gym. It could be your dear old Aunt Sally that you haven't seen in 200 years. Or it could be, a former colleague, a friend, a college roommate, a professor, a coach, anybody who you want to reconnect with for whatever reason. But make a list. Pick 5 people. I know you know thousands of people. Pick 5 and then commit to reconnecting with them. So that's part of preparation. Another list is a list of people you don't know but would like to. And by the way, this is a similar list, but a little bit more difficult to make because you don't know who you don't know. And yet, if you start to think about, I want to meet so-and-so, I want to meet somebody at the local animal shelter because I want to get involved in the community, or I want to meet my local representative because I want to make a change in the neighborhood. It's important to know the types of people you want to connect with. And by the way, if you tell people on list number 1, that you want to meet the people on list number 2, they'll help you get there. A little preparation goes a long way.
I love that because preparation is the only way you can be successful in a negotiation, but it's also for connection. And connection can happen by accident, but when you're really intentional about it, I loved your second point around that. Though that second list, it doesn't have to be exact to the person. It can be in a category.
Yes.
And then when to have those connections with the people you love or the people that you have a deep relationship with, you can tell them that, and that can make those lines into those other areas.
100%. They will help you forge those alliances. And by the way, one other aspect of preparation is question asking, being prepared with a list of questions, big open-ended questions. I think that's useful in negotiations. It's important in relationship building. I think it's just important in life to be curious.
And having those questions are so good. All right. Tip number 2.
Tip number 2 is all about body language. I think that we are all walking around with our very best tool. We all have this toolkit that we're carrying around. And the number one tip I have is your best tool is your smile. Your smile is the welcome mat for building relationships.
Yeah.
If you smile at somebody, it says, hello, I'm open to connecting with you. And it doesn't have to be weird or creepy or leery. It's simply hello. It's sort of the sign that says, I'm open to building connections. And if you see a smile, you know that somebody is open to receiving you.
It makes me smile just because we know that connection just brightens somebody's day. When we get in our head and we get thinking so much, that creates this dead face. And so just having this remembering, even if it's a soft smile, it doesn't have to be real big teethy, but just a soft smile can just show that there is that connection. It kind of takes that wall down.
It does. I think it, as you said, it sort of softens the mood. It softens the moment, especially if things have gotten tense.
Yeah.
It just sort of it makes it a little more human, right?
Yeah.
It shows your humanity. It shows that I'm just a person. I've got my agenda. You've got yours, but we're both people. And so I think to humanize it actually helps a lot.
Okay. Tip number 3.
Tip number 3, say thank you. You just do what your mama always taught you. You say thank you. You know, we all think that we're saying thank you. We all think we do. Very rarely do we actually do that. My very best favorite way to say thank you is to engage in this ancient art form that has been lost over time. But it was once known as the handwritten thank you note. And I still think that there's something very special about that. So I don't care what people's handwriting looks like. Saying thank you in a handwritten letter shows that extra, sort of that little extra oomph that says, I really care about you. You matter to me. And I really appreciate whatever this thing is that you did for me.
And it's memorable because it is such ancient history that people just don't get it anymore. So they remember you. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And you know what? People don't throw away handwritten correspondence. I know there's somebody listening today who says, no, I read them and toss them. But you know what? Most people don't throw away handwritten correspondence or, you know, it sits on their desk for at least 3 weeks before it finally makes its way to the trash bin.
It's fair.
And frankly, a lot of people will tack it to their bulletin board or tape it to the refrigerator, and then it's art and it's never coming down.
That's so good. I love that one. All right. So what are the 3 again?
3 tips: prepare, mind your body language. I like a smile for that.
Yeah.
And the third one, say thank you.
Oh, so good. So good. All right. So when we come back, we'll talk a little bit about what we can shift, stop, start, and to continue. Because as you're a coach too, I always like to remind people we can have this conversation here, but unless you think about how you're going to shift you, nothing's going to change unless you do it. So we'll be right back. This is where we talk about what are we going to stop, start, and continue, because in order to do something, you have to make a commitment. So what are you going to stop doing?
What I'm going to stop doing is I'm going to stop thinking that no means no forever, right? So if I ask for something and I get a no, it's not no forever. It's just no right now.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm going to totally draft on that one for you because I think that I always think, oh, they don't want to. And always hearing like, no is not always no. It's subtle. It can be subtle. So not get lulled into that. All right. What are you going to start doing?
You know, one thing that I've learned from you over the years and that I still need to do a better job of is I need to start realizing that in negotiations or in tense moments or in times of challenge where tensions are riding high, I need to continue to humanize the other side, to recognize that they're not a bad person. They just have a different perspective.
Yes.
And that I need to do a better job of sort of acknowledging or respecting their perspective.
Ooh, that is so good. It's hard to do, but it's really, really good. I'm going to draft off of what you said about making a list of categories of people you want to know. I've not really thought about that before, but I can see the power of just putting that out there, and you will just naturally find those connections. So I'm going to start doing that. And then what are you going to continue doing?
Oh, building meaningful relationships.
Yeah.
I think that as we talked about, relationship building is a series of touch points over time. And as we have those touch points, we're building trust, we're building familiarity, and it makes those tough moments or those moments where a transaction is necessary a lot easier and a lot more trust-based.
Yeah. I love that. You're for me, I'm going to continue. I like in public to have a smile or to acknowledge. Like I always think that we often think really good things about the person in front of us, but if we don't say anything, they think we're judging them. Yeah. And so taking the time to make that connection with people, I think is something that I just will continue to do, even if it bugs people that don't want to be bothered by the strange woman. I'm going to do it.
Good. You should.
It's my continue, not yours.
That's right.
Oh, this was so good. How can people find you? Tell us a little bit about your business.
Yeah. So Coffee Lunch Coffee, what I do is I train people to build better, more meaningful professional relationships through networking. You can visit me at coffeelunchcoffee.com. I have a weekly blog at blog.coffeelunchcoffee.com. And I would love for people to join the Coffee Lunch Coffee community.
I love it. Well, I'm so glad you were here. Thank you for giving this connection. Connection is so important in negotiation, in our professional lives, in our personal lives, and everything we do. And building that network is so important that we do intentionally. So I love your wisdom here. I appreciate you being here. And don't forget, negotiation is more than a skill. It's a mindset. So stick with it. Until next time.